I'm sure all of you watching this know exactly what update the title of this video is talking about. Now this update is bad, we all know it's bad, but the reason it's bad is mostly because they basically released half an update for balancing without the positive half, so it just looks like they ruined thousands of builds completely without compensating for at least another week or two. Regardless, in today's video, I want to talk about why nerfing the Shrine of Order isn't necessarily a bad thing, they just didn't handle this well. Make sure to subscribe since only about 20% of the people watching this video right now are actually subscribed. Last video, someone said, "Stop saying you're live on Twitch like that, it pisses me off and makes me want to click off the video FFS. I don't care. I really do not care. If you want to click off the video, then click off. Your view specifically doesn't really matter. If you don't watch the video, then don't watch the video. If you're gonna watch the video, then watch the video. It doesn't matter. Regardless, I hope you all enjoy. And let's get straight into it. Alright, so last week a whole bunch of Shrine of Order and talent nerfs rolled out as a part of the weekly update. Now many people think this was an Agamatsu update and just forget that there are multiple devs working on the game because he's new to the dev team. But more specifically, I'm pretty sure Dex is the one who wanted to nerf the Shrine of Order as a whole because he's always hated it and has openly talked about that. So I'm pretty sure Dex is behind lots of these nerfs. Now people are mostly mad about the nerfs to talents where certain talents become weaker versions of themselves if you don't have the stats required to use them normally, right? So the biggest one that people were mad about was the brick wall nerf. This was the most talked about nerf in the talent nerfs, but it's mostly because they made a typo in the patch notes somehow. Essentially, the only important nerf and interaction here is that if you Shrine of Order with brick wall, your ragdoll timer gets like kind of increased against certain things. So the only interaction this matters for is the fact that you can no longer tank the Heart of Enmity stomp without getting ragdolled like you could before if you have less than 100 fortitude. This is the only interaction that majorly changes, and honestly it's a good nerf because PvE builds have always been kind of brain dead, and all this does is make it so you have to parry or dodge one more move than you did before. So this is not a bad change, it just means, oh, if you're going to specialize and make your PvE build super viable, then you're going to have a tiny, minuscule, little bit more challenge against specifically the Heart of Enmity. Now, before I talk about why nerfing the Shrine of Order is good, you guys should probably understand why the Shrine of Order is both bad and good for the game, right? So the Shrine of Order was the biggest change to Deepwokens progression. It was so influential to the point that ever since it came out, no viable build could be made without using it. This is bad. You shouldn't be forced into using the Shrine of Order to make a good build, but this has been how the game has worked for a very long time with its meta. And it sucks because getting knowledge in-game kind of sucks, because if you're a new player, you don't have like banked moon's eyes, you don't have all the stuff you would need to have massive amounts of knowledge that way you can get the talents you need, as well as Shrine of Ordering, because you can't, without farming knowledge, both Shrine of Order and do the shrine that lets you choose talents or reroll your talents. I forget which one that's called, I'm sorry. But you can't do both without like a moon's eye. You see, the Shrine of Order does not give potential for build diversity. It just doesn't. Too many people have been saying that, oh, this kills build diversity because they nerfed it, or the Shrine of Order is why build diversity exists. No. It gives potential for build flexibility, which is not the same thing. The Shrine of Order also provides you with way too much build flexibility. Now, this is good for multi-attunement builds because with how many attunement points you need for any given multi-attunement build, which is generally around 80 ideally, you're going to be severely lacking in other stats and talents. So for multi-attunement builds, the Shrine of Order is the perfect solution to use multiple attunements in conjunction without lacking in talents from other stats. However, for non-multi-attunement builds, it just offers way too much flexibility to the point where you don't even need to make choices anymore, because you can have all the best talents on any given build that you would ever need, especially when attunementless is the meta, because the mantras are just the dumbest, most broken mantras in the entire game. Exhaustion Strike, Shoulder Bash, Rapid Slashes, to an extent Pressure Blast. I wouldn't put it on the same tier as Exhaustion Strike and Shoulder Bash, but those two specifically are probably the two best mantras in the entire game, and basically all the attunementless mantras are just the best in the game, which means most people have way too many talents, and this kind of sucks. Deepwoken's initial progression before the Shrine of Order was added was about making choices. You want a lot in one stat? That's a sacrifice that you needed to make depending on your playstyle to find what you like without having literally everything in the game. Ever since Shrine of Order got nerfed, people complains that it kills build diversity. But do any of you saying that even know what it means? Like really, 95% of you probably got your build from the same YouTube video or series of videos and probably use the same pre-shrine stats, but you're going to complain that this update is bad for build diversity? As a whole, no. It's bad for build flexibility, which is a vastly different thing because Shrine of Order has been so good that it's made the Deepwoken meta way too strict, because now every build is forced to use it, and because talents aren't made equally, we know this, it means that there is a clear meta as far as early pre-shrine progression goes, where you get the same talents every build depending on whether you're going PvP or PvE. So I don't get how the community and a lot of people are going to complain that build diversity is dead now when it didn't exist before this update. And at that, the Shrine of Order is hard to use efficiently on your own. Like, realistically, how many of you, without using Buildmaker stat allocation and without using a YouTube guide, have used the Shrine of Order actually effectively? The answer is probably, like, less than 1% of you watching this right now. The answer is not the majority. If you think, well, I can do that, you aren't most people. You are one person. Every time I say something like that, which is a generalized statement that covers the majority, I get comments from people. Maybe 10 people, maybe even 100 people. Regardless, you are not the majority, so your point there doesn't count, okay? But really, it was just too strong and overall not a good addition to the game. I think Shrine of Order should be a trade-off, but they kind of just did it wrong this update. Instead of just nerfing all these talents on Shrine builds, also buff their base levels or maybe even add buff version of talents depending on how your stats go up. So yeah, you have Conditioned Runner, but then you can make a Conditioned Runner scale based off of agility and get stronger, right? Because then you could have people using these non-Shrine builds can specialize in certain talent trees and have higher buffs on specifically those trees. Therefore, you have two options. You can make a Shrine build, which is like a jack of all trades, and weakens in each stat tree, not specializing in anything, or you make a non-Shrine build, which gets stronger talents from certain trees and gets to specialize in specifically those stats. Shrine let you essentially do both before, which is bad. Every RPG in existence that has been based on stat allocations uses a trade-off system and design to their stats, and Deepwoken essentially removed this when the Shrine of Order came out, and it's been like that for the last 2 years. Let me make a quick analogy for those of you who play actual video games. Cyberpunk 2077 lets you max out like 3 of the 6 skill trees in game, which all give you varying levels of abilities and skills, right? You have to pick and choose what you want to specialize in. These give you different options in game, and Shrine of Order basically removes the choice involved in that and lets you max out nearly all of them, which just gives you infinite options. It is a dumb addition and would be a dumb addition in Cyberpunk, so why wouldn't it be a dumb addition in Deepwoken? The point is, it is a dumb addition. And regardless of the fact that metas will always exist, it doesn't make the concept of balancing irrelevant, so don't comment something dumb about how people will just find which is better and then gravitate towards that, because that's always going to be a thing that happens. I'd also like to say a majority of people saying that the Shrine of Order nerfs killed build diversity haven't played the game for long enough to know what it was like before the Shrine of Order. And actually, I think builds were the most diverse pre-Shrine of Order in Verse 2. And before anyone says, well, that's only because people were bad and couldn't make good builds back then, Shrine of Order didn't exist for over a year, and people had plenty of time to experiment, and I find that the pre-Shrine of Order era was the most diverse time for builds, or at least attunement usage. People back then commonly used basically every attunement with any weapon they liked. The fact that Dagger Flame and Shadow Heavy, or Shadow Greatsword, specifically are so prominent now is kind of weird, because realistically, replacing a weapon in your build makes zero difference outside of playstyle, so I'm not sure why people play so strictly, even now, unwilling to substitute weapons for more fun ones they enjoy more, or that may even be better. Because Dagger's not good. Okay, I'm gonna say it. Dagger's not good. Every time I say Dagger and light weapons as a whole other than fists aren't good, people are like, oh, but Dagger Flame is good. Flame is good, okay? If you were to replace that dagger with another like medium or heavy weapon, the build would be probably just as, if not more effective. Stop talking about weapons like they really matter majorly outside of playstyle. Dagger's not very good. Back then, right, the pre-Shrine of Order era, there were at least major attuned builds in comparison to today. Right now, attunement list is without a doubt the strongest list of mantras in the game, which is stupid, but also builds back in Verse 1 were a lot more diverse because people had to make options. You'd see varying weapons used with varying attunements a lot more than you do now. Now, I don't think this update was good, but that's because they really only did half of it. Essentially, this update was half done and was supposed to make the non-Shrine builds more common and more viable. The way they plan on doing this is by making the Shrine version of the talents slightly nerf version of the talents before shrining. So, slightly weaker effects, maybe slightly longer cooldowns, stuff like that. And it's not bad. It is not a bad thing, because then it gives you the option. Do you want to specialize in this thing, or do you want to be a jack of all trades? And that's good. That's literally how every other video game in existence has worked. You can either be a jack of all trades and have benefits in every category but not specialize in any of them, or you can specialize in them and have like excelling stats and talents in those categories that you choose to excel in. This is a good system, and people don't see that because they're just upset that their builds got slightly nerfed. So people are arguing that this update also killed multi-attunement builds. sense, but not really. The build nerfs don't really affect multi-attunemented builds because the appeal of multi-attunement builds is generally mantras, and mantra usage and being able to mix up your mantras, right? So while yeah, there are good talents on certain attunement talent trees, a majority of builds aren't going, so you're not going to be able to get them as much with dual attunements because of the Shrine of Order nerf. It's also a sacrifice. Oh, you want multi-attunements? Okay, well now you're choosing to specialize some of your points in those attunements rather than being able to specialize in talents which may or may not benefit you more or less. And also, the guy who first made that argument to me is an attunementless heavy player, so I'm not really taking his argument very seriously. Overall, I think it's a good nerf to the Shrine of Order because builds were just way too flexible before. Like, everyone shouldn't be able to have everything. That just shouldn't be how it works in a game where builds are the main appeal of progression, you know? Giving everyone everything doesn't make a build, it just makes it boring. This update it should have had its second half, which was supposed to compensate people's builds with potential recreation as well as potentially buffing non-shrine builds. But I guess instead of releasing both halves together, they released half the update and made the nerf to Shrine of Order when they could have just waited and avoided a lot of community backlash. Because another issue that this could bring up is power creep, because assuming that they don't just nerf these builds, because by nerfing all these builds, they didn't really buff non-shrine builds. They just made these builds that were using the shrine less viable, right? So they have to bring people to the non-shrine build somehow, and that is by buffing non-shrine builds. But there is a really high chance that the devs cause major power creep issues by either introducing new talents, which are too strong, which would motivate people to go to the non-shrine paths. But then if too many people are going to these non-shrine paths, Shrine of Order just becomes completely obsolete because, oh, power creep. Now the non-shrine builds are too strong. So they should really find a good way to balance this, and I think it would just be by not entirely buffing every talent through Shrine of Order, but then offering small scaling level specializations. So maybe like 100 fortitude would make X talent like Brick Wall more effective, which is kind of what they did already with Brick Wall specifically, because now you have to parry Heart of Enmity and all that. But they should do this with more talents, but make it scale upwards as kind of like a sacrificial thing. You sacrifice more stat points, talents become more effective. Regardless, I do think the Shrine of Order is one of the worst additions to the game as a whole, so nerfing it and kind of bringing us back to verse 1 is potentially good, and hopefully people will start like being original with their builds again. I get that there will always be metas, but I feel like the Shrine of Order has only made these metas more strict than before. And as far as PvE builds go, barely anything changes. You guys are good. You just have to spam M1 a little bit less. Now, one thing I do kind of not like from this whole scenario is the fact that, right, the talents aren't that good. Like, the major problem with it is that talents have always been nerfed over time. So the point is you're supposed to be able to specialize in certain things to get certain talents, but it's not worth specializing in talents right now because none of them are that strong. Like, maybe pre-nerf Conditioned Runner was too strong, but if we could find a good midpoint and keep current Conditioned Runner for Chime users and then just buff non-shrine builds, I think that would have been a better way to go. Because if they just buff talents on non-shrine builds instead of kind of ruining certain talents on shrine builds, it would have been a much better way to go, and probably also would have resulted in less power creep than we'll see in the future if the devs decide to add new talents. Which also, they should have incorporated this with the new like mind body stats that they added, because how are you guys gonna add stats for mind and body and then have them be used for weapon requirements and stuff, but not for like talent hybrid requirements and stuff like that? They actually could have just used that as a way to balance out the game and still offered people who want to more build flexibility without canceling out people's current build diversity, or you know, so-called diversity. And by the way, you know build diversity is dead because my build that I use in these videos, which isn't good, my build isn't good. Rapier is the worst weapon in the entire game. People still ask for the Ice Rapier build. By the way, that build is 3 years old. I don't have it! It's not good! Stop asking me for it! I'm not gonna reply to any more comments asking me for the build, because I literally just don't have it anymore. The build is like 280 years old. But yeah, I'm sorry for yelling. I just keep seeing comments like that. The build isn't good, okay? It's just not good. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. A little bit about my game, because I briefly mentioned in my last video that YouTube glitched, by the way, and released 14 hours early, so I guess my EU viewers are eating good for that one. I was making a game, right? And I am putting a lot of money into this game. My budget is pretty high, so I kind of wanted to tell a story about that. So the 1-year anniversary for my S-Level Corporation is coming up on August 18th, and as a little gift to myself, well, not really to myself, but from the corporation, because I disperse bonuses throughout all of our staff, pretty much, I was gonna buy a watch. So I go to the Rolex boutique and I was like, huh, let me get the 40th anniversary date. And then they're like, oh, 36-month waiting list. And I was like, oh, okay. So I said, fuck you, I walked out of there. And now I'm using the $40,000 that I got from my bonus, not on a watch, but on a game. So yeah. And I mean, technically that's just kind of like my money being given back to me because I can kind of just take anything I want. But you know, I like to pay my people good because they do work for me and they make me a lot of money. I'm hoping to have a combat test done in about a month or two, and then maybe I'll start showing you guys stuff from that. But yeah, I think you guys are gonna like it when it's out in like the year 2092. Just kidding, I've got a lot of money on this thing, so I'm gonna whip my devs and they're gonna take it because I'm paying them. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, subscribe, check out my live channel. If you want to add on or disagree or agree with anything I've said here, just leave a comment. I read every comment. Shout out to YouTube members Green, Brick, Pickle, Goobka, Highcard, and Drizzy Drake Fan. I love you all. Have an amazing day as usual, and goodbye.